The courthouse parking lot shimmered beneath the late morning sun, heat rising from the asphalt like steam off boiling water. Marcus Williams eased his sleek black sedan into the lot with the careful precision of a man who'd done this drive 100 times, but today felt heavier, bigger. Every decision, every minute, every breath mattered. He inhaled slowly through his nose, exhaled through parted lips, hands relaxed but firm on the wheel. Today's case wasn't routine, not even close. He'd spent weeks preparing, building arguments, stacking evidence like bricks in a wall no one could break. He was ready. At least he thought he was. Then it happened, like a sudden break in calm water. A silver luxury SUV screeched around a corner and slid into the very space Marcus was signaling for. 4 wheels jerked to a stop, crooked, disrespectfully crossing the line, like someone who didn't care where boundaries lay, legally or otherwise. Marcus hit his brakes, hard. His pulse spiked, heat flushed across his chest. Not from fear, from insult. He sat there for 3 long seconds, engine humming, jaw locked, eyes fixed on the SUV. Of course, entitlement had a way of announcing itself loudly, and usually without thought. The SUV door swung open. Out stepped a tall, broad-shouldered man, salt and pepper hair, immaculate gray suit, sunglasses balanced arrogantly atop his head like a crown. He didn't just look confident. He looked entitled to it. Marcus watched through his windshield as the man adjusted his tie, straightened his jacket, and walked toward him with the stride of someone used to getting first pick of everything. He stopped right in front of Marcus's hood, squared his shoulders, and barked, "Hey, you almost hit me." The accusation sliced through the heat like a blade. Marcus blinked, slow, disbelieving. He lowered his window halfway. Calm, controlled, eyes steady. "Excuse me," he said, voice even, smooth. The man leaned closer, face tightening like he was about to blow steam. "I said you almost hit me. Pay attention next time." Marcus lifted one brow, pulse steadying into something colder. This wasn't the first man who tried to rewrite reality to suit his ego. He kept his tone polite, painfully polite. "I had my signal on, you cut me off." The man cocked his head, lips curling into something halfway between amusement and disrespect. "That's so." He walked Marcus's car up and down like a judge evaluating property, not a person. Then he smirked. "Maybe you should have been quicker." Marcus stared blankly, momentarily speechless. Quicker. Quicker to stop someone stealing his space? Quicker to avoid responsibility? Quicker to swallow ignorance and pretend it didn't sting? He swallowed his frustration. "I was already parked to turn in," Marcus replied, voice still steady. "You nearly caused an accident." The man waved a dismissive hand, like shooing a fly. "Doesn't matter, does it? You can find another spot." His tone held no doubt, no apology, just the casual superiority of someone who believed they belonged here more than Marcus did. Marcus's chest tightened. This wasn't about the space anymore. It was about assumption, about difference, about the weight of being expected to take it silently. He breathed deeply, like a lawyer preparing not for war, but for proof. "I had right of way," he said quietly. The man's smile finally cracked, not broken, but shaken. "Well," he said after a beat, eyes narrowing, "maybe you should try keeping up." He tapped the roof of Marcus's car twice, condescending, final. Then he turned and walked away. Marcus watched him go, heartbeat steady, but simmering beneath stern ribs. His knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. He could ignore it. He could let it slide. He could file this moment under another day, another ego, and move on. But the way the man moved, the certainty in his footsteps, told Marcus this wouldn't be the last he'd see of him. Not today, not ever maybe. He finally found another spot, parked. Cut the engine. Silence swallowed him, heavy, thick. He sat there 3 seconds, then 10, refusing to give this man ownership of his mood. He straightened his jacket, adjusted his tie, lifted his briefcase. When he stepped into the courthouse lobby, polished marble glimmered beneath his shoes. The air was cool, crisp, professional. He nodded to clerks. Clerks nodded back, respectfully, because Marcus had earned his place here with work, not privilege. He pushed open the courtroom doors and froze mid-step, not visibly, not dramatically, just internally, because sitting at opposing counsel's table, confident, smug, arranging papers like king of the space he'd stolen, was the man from the parking lot. He turned, saw Marcus, and the shock, the recognition, rippled across his face like a stone thrown into calm water. The arrogance melted, the smirk faded, the certainty fractured. He hadn't cut off just another driver. He had cut off his opponent. And today, he was about to learn what a mistake that really was. Marcus walked to his table slowly, calm, composed, not intimidated, but focused. The courtroom wasn't asphalt. It was territory Marcus owned through skill, not entitlement. The man's jaw tightened. And in that moment, Marcus knew this battle hadn't ended in the parking lot. It had only just begun. The courtroom murmurs dulled into silence as the judge entered, robes flowing like authority itself. Marcus sat straight, calm on the outside, but inside, thoughts sharpened like surgical steel. The man from the parking lot never looked fully at him. He kept shifting in his chair, fingers tapping against the table like he could feel his arrogance crumbling under the weight of consequence. Marcus opened his file, neatly organized, every page crisp, every argument ready, not for revenge, for justice. The opposing counsel, the same man who stole his parking spot, finally looked up. Their eyes met. No words, no smirk, just tension thick enough to taste. Marcus spoke first, barely above a whisper, but clear enough. Small world. The man swallowed. Don't expect special treatment. Marcus replied calmly, I never asked for any. That stung. He looked away, jaw tight. The bailiff announced the case. Harris versus Coleman. A civil lawsuit over a breached development contract. Millions of dollars at stake. This wasn't petty neighborhood drama. This was scale, power, reputation. Marcus stood when called, voice smooth as polished stone. Your Honor, the defense is prepared to proceed. Opposing counsel rose slower, confidence trembling beneath the surface. Marcus presented first. Documents, emails, timelines, evidence layered like steel. His tone carried weight, but not ego. Precision without cruelty. His client, a modest contractor wronged by corporate greed, watched with hope in tired eyes. Opposing counsel tried interrupting once. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He simply turned his head slightly, letting silence discipline the moment. Objection withdrawn, the man muttered. The judge nodded. Marcus pressed forward, methodical, unstoppable. Every fact struck like a gavel. Every witness reinforced truth. Every piece of evidence built a wall the opposing side couldn't climb. By the hour's end, the arrogance from the parking lot felt small. By midday, it felt foolish. By recess, it was gone. The judge called for a 15-minute break. People rose, paper shuffled. Tension loosened, like a collar finally unbuttoned. Marcus collected his notes, calm and professional, until he felt someone approach. The man stood beside him, hands shaking slightly. "You're good," he admitted, voice choked by pride. "Better than I expected." Marcus closed his file gently. "You're not bad, just reckless." A beat of silence. "Like this morning," he added. The man stiffened, shame flickering through his eyes. "I lost control." "You took what wasn't yours," Marcus corrected softly. "Not about the spot anymore, but about everything." The man exhaled. "You could have argued back harder." "You didn't. That wouldn't have changed your mind," Marcus replied. "Only the outcome." The man swallowed. No retort, no sarcasm, just realization. "Look," he murmured, "about earlier, I shouldn't have spoken to you the way I did, or taken what wasn't mine." Marcus straightened his tie. "You're learning, that's something." The man nodded, slowly, like movement itself carried weight. "Maybe we can reset," he offered. "Just two attorneys doing their job." Marcus tilted his head, measuring sincerity. "A reset means today first, tomorrow earned." The man nodded again. Fair, balanced, true. Court resumed. Marcus watched him present, more cautious now, more grounded, less fire and more facts. He objected when necessary. He conceded when evidence cornered him. Pride didn't drive, reason did. Maybe growth was happening in real time. By late afternoon, the courtroom buzzed again as closing arguments began. Marcus stepped forward for the final voice, the voice that could tip everything. He spoke, not like a fighter, but like a blade. Clean, sharp, precise. "This case isn't about power," he told the judge. "It's about accountability." His words echoed. This morning, counsel took something he did not earn. In this courtroom, his client attempted the same. Eyes settled on Marcus. Even opposing counsel listened still. But evidence speaks louder than assumptions. Truth stands taller than ego. And justice, real justice, doesn't bend to confidence, only to facts. Silence fell like snow. When Marcus sat, his pulse was steady. Control didn't mean emotionless, it meant direction. The judge took her time, flipping through documents, scanning details. Minutes passed slow, heavy, breathless. Finally her gaze lifted. Ruling delivered. Verdict handed down. Marcus won. His client gasped softly, relief breaking like dawn across his features. Gratitude shimmered in his raw exhale. Marcus shook his hand. Firm, respectful, earned. The opposing counsel stood stiff, face pale, mask shattered. Not humiliated, but humbled. He approached Marcus once more. Slower, steadier, stripped of armor. "You fought clean," he said quietly. "And you were right." Marcus nodded. "You lost a case," he replied, "but you learned something worth more." The man glanced away, considering, processing, maybe reshaping himself from the inside out. Marcus gathered his files, walked out into the evening sun, warm, patient, unburdened. Each step sounded less like law, more like life, rhythm returning, balance restored. He reached the parking lot again. This time he didn't rush, didn't tense, didn't brace. He saw the silver SUV ahead, perfectly parked now, within the lines, and beside it, the man stood waiting, not blocking, not challenging, just waiting, like someone who wanted to finish right what began wrong. Marcus paused, holding his briefcase lightly. Their eyes met. No hostility, only recognition. Two people changed by circumstance, evidence, and choice. The man walked forward and extended his hand. No arrogance, no expectation. Marcus considered, then accepted the handshake. firm, level, equal. You earned this conversation, Marcus said. The man exhaled, relief mixed with respect. I won't steal another space. Not yours, not anyone's. Marcus gave a small nod. Growth is parking where you belong. They shared a quiet laugh, small but sincere. The sun dipped low across the courthouse, painting gold over asphalt and reflection. Marcus unlocked his car, placed his case inside, paused once more. The day had begun with theft. It ended with truth. Not brutal, not loud, just right. Marcus drove home through the late afternoon city traffic, the sun low and orange in the rearview mirror like a fading ember. For the first time that day, he allowed himself to breathe slow, not like a man preparing for war, but like someone returning from it. The case was over. Truth had held. Pride had bent, but did not break. Yet something lingered in Marcus's mind, not the victory, but why it mattered. He pulled into his townhouse driveway, killed the engine, and sat for a moment, hands resting on the steering wheel. The world felt quieter now, like someone had turned the volume down on conflict. Inside, Marcus loosened his tie, dropped his briefcase on the dining table, and poured himself a glass of cold water. He took one slow sip and let the coolness wash away what tension remained. Then, his phone buzzed. He assumed it was a colleague congratulating him. Maybe his client thanking him again, but it wasn't. Unknown number. One new message. Marcus hesitated a second before opening it. This is Harold Bennett, opposing counsel from today. If you're free tonight, I'd like to talk more. Off the record. No suits, no judge. Just two men who worked through something. A pause. Then another message came in moments later, vulnerable, human. I want to understand people better, and maybe myself too. Marcus stood still, phone dimming in his hand. He replayed the tone, the failed confidence, the moment Harold lost entitlement and found reflection. He could have ignored him. He had every right to. But progress only grows in soil we water. So Marcus typed back, 1 hour, Midtown Cafe, neutral ground. Bring an open mind. A simple reply, but a door opening is never loud. Midtown Cafe, 7:14 p.m. The evening crowd buzzed with quiet conversation and soft jazz. Marcus entered wearing relaxed clothes. Button-down sleeves rolled. No briefcase, no courtroom armor. Harold was already inside. Not in a tailored suit. Not sharp and towering. Just a man in jeans and a wrinkle-worn polo. He stood when Marcus approached. You actually came, Harold said, voice low, like he didn't expect forgiveness to be real. Marcus sat across from him. You asked. That counts. The waiter brought coffee for Harold, tea for Marcus. No tension. Just two men in the space where understanding begins. Harold inhaled deeply, hands clasped like someone bracing for impact. I've been a proud man my whole life, he confessed. I fought for respect by demanding it, taking it. Parking spot or courtroom, it never mattered. Marcus listened, letting silence work like truth serum. Harold's eyes glistened, not tears, but the shine of honesty, rarely spoken aloud. When you didn't react like I expected, it threw me, he admitted. You didn't yell, didn't puff your chest. You stood there and let me look like the fool. Marcus set down his tea gently. Standing tall isn't about volume, he replied. It's about control and choosing what story you leave behind. Harold nodded slowly, absorbing. I attacked you before court. You could have buried me harder, and legally, you did, but you didn't humiliate me. You let me correct myself. Marcus let the words breathe, like a lesson unfolding. Growth isn't weakness, Marcus said. Neither is change. Harold exhaled a long breath, not defeated, but relieved. Something in his posture softened. "I've been practicing law for 20 years, Harold murmured, "and I never learned restraint. Today, you showed me what that looks like." Marcus sat back. "We all fail first," he said. "What matters is what we do after the embarrassment fades." Harold nodded again, this time with new ground beneath him. "I want to be better," he said. "Not loud, not proud, just honest. And honesty, real honesty, is louder than arrogance ever was." They talked for almost an hour about life, frustration, ego, patience, not as rivals, as men learning, unlearning, and becoming. When they stood to leave, Harold offered his hand again, but this time there was no hesitation, no facade. Marcus shook it. Firm, equal. "I'll see you in court again," Harold said. Marcus smirked. "And next time, park where you belong." Harold laughed, genuine, unguarded. This time he nodded, got into his SUV, and reversed slowly, carefully, checking mirrors like a man who'd learned something from the fight he never intended to start. Marcus got into his own car, switched the ignition on, jazz still in his head. The night air was cool, peaceful, like justice with a softer voice. He drove home with windows cracked open, city lights gliding like memories across the windshield. For a while he thought the day was done, but growth has chapters, and tomorrow wasn't finished writing him wet. Because life doesn't test you once, it tests to see if you learned. Morning arrived quiet, too quiet. Marcus sat at his kitchen counter, sipping coffee while sunlight stretched through blinds in thin golden lines. Yesterday changed something in him, and in Harold. But life rarely gives closure without an aftershock. At 9:17 a.m., his phone buzzed. Not a message, a call. Caller ID, blocked number. Marcus answered, calm tone, curious mind. Marcus Williams speaking. A deep voice replied, stern, clipped, official. Mr. Williams, this is Detective Rowan, City Police Department. We need you to come down to the station regarding an incident involving Harold Bennett. The name struck like cold water. Marcus straightened. Is he all right? A pause, waited, tense. He was found outside the courthouse this morning, assaulted. Severe injuries. He's stable, but we need your statement. Marcus's pulse tightened. Assaulted? Harold? After yesterday's change? Hell has a way of testing redemption quickly. Marcus grabbed his keys without hesitation. The drive to the station felt like moving through molasses. Slow, thick. Each traffic light a drag against urgency. Police precinct. 10:06 a.m. The station buzzed with the usual hum. Phones ringing, officers moving, paperwork stacking like war plans. Marcus checked in, waited only 5 minutes before Detective Rowan emerged. Tall, broad, eyes sharp like a blade. A man who didn't waste breath. You spoke with Harold Bennett yesterday? Rowan asked. Marcus nodded. We met for coffee. Talked. He left around 9 p.m. Good terms? Marcus nodded again. He apologized for our earlier conflict. We ended civil, even friendly. Rowan scribbled notes. And before that, you two had a confrontation in the courthouse lot. Marcus inhaled slowly, memory still crisp. He cut me off parking. Words were exchanged, but it didn't escalate into violence. Rowan raised a brow. But it could have? Marcus met his eyes, voice steady. It could have, but it didn't. Rowan studied him for a moment. Not accusing, but thorough. Detective minds never take statements at face value. Harold filed no complaints against you, Rowan said. In fact, he spoke highly of you during intake. Marcus blinked, surprised, almost moved. He said you taught him restraint. Marcus exhaled. relief mixed with sadness. And yet someone else didn't. Rowan nodded slowly. We're reviewing footage. The attack happened late. No clear suspect. No motive yet. Marcus's courtroom instincts lit like coals under breath. Someone wanted him punished, Marcus said quietly. Rowan's eyes sharpened. You think it's tied to your case? Marcus leaned forward. Or tied to who he used to be. Men who lose power sometimes make enemies they don't see coming. Marcus stood, shook Rowan's hand. Firm, respectful. He walked out of the precinct, with weight pressing his shoulders. Not guilt, not fear. Responsibility. He knew what anger looked like when challenged. He saw Harold learn, but maybe someone else didn't want him to. As Marcus reached his car, his phone buzzed again. This time, a message. Unknown number. You think changing him was enough? You haven't seen what broken ego looks like. Marcus stared, breath freezing. Another message followed. You're next, lawyer. People like you don't get to win twice. His jaw tightened. Not fear. Resolve. He typed back, slow, deliberate. Come find me then. I won't run. No response. Just the steady hum of the city, like the calm before a second storm. And Marcus knew. This wasn't about Harold anymore. Not just law, not just ego. It was a threat, a warning, a challenge. And he would face it, not with fists, not with fear, but with truth sharpened like a blade. Because the world tests those who stand tall, to see if they can remain standing. Marcus drove straight to Harold's hospital room, not because duty demanded it, but because conscience did. He refused to let the last conversation they ever had be the one from court. Growth deserved witness. So did vulnerability. The hospital smelled of sterile floors, disinfectant, and quiet grief. Nurses hurried past with clipboards and urgency that never slept. Marcus moved through the halls with controlled steps, but his thoughts raced. What kind of person attacked Harold? Was it someone from the case, someone with something to lose, or someone who saw Harold's change and hated it? He reached room 314. The curtain was half drawn. Machines beeped steady, like forced heartbeats of hope. Harold lay in the bed, face bruised, one eye swollen, lip split, ribs wrapped under his gown. Yet when he turned and saw Marcus, he smiled. Weak, but real. You came, Harold murmured. Marcus stepped closer, voice low. You think I'd let you face this alone? Harold's eyes softened, gratitude hiding behind pain. I keep replaying yesterday, he said slowly, words strained. I changed. I felt it. But maybe someone else didn't want me to. Marcus sat gently beside him. His voice was steady, like a legal argument without malice. Growth makes enemies, Marcus said, especially when it comes from admitting wrong. Harold exhaled, a sound made of regrets and realizations. They didn't just hit me, he said. They said something before they ran. Marcus leaned in, every sense sharp. What did they say? Harold swallowed, throat stiff. Stay in your lane. Marcus felt something cold settle beneath his ribs. Familiar, bitter. A reminder that progress threatens those clinging to old power. He clenched his jaw, but his voice stayed calm. They wanted to put you back in place, Marcus said. Like arguing with them was stepping too far. Harold nodded weakly. And for the first time, I didn't step back. Marcus looked at him, not pity, but respect. Silence settled, heavy, warm, human. Then Harold whispered. Marcus didn't flinch. He already knew, deep down, Threats always travel in twos. I'm not afraid. You should be, Harold said, voice thin. They hit hard. Marcus gave a faint, measured smile. So do consequences. Harold almost laughed, then winced at the pain. You don't bend, do you? Marcus stood slowly. I bend for humility, not intimidation. Harold nodded, proud in quiet ways. As Marcus walked toward the door, Harold's voice followed him, soft, raw. Thank you for giving me a reason to change. Marcus paused, hand on the doorframe. You changed because you chose to, not because I made you. And he left. Parking garage, level 2. Marcus reached his car and noticed something he hadn't earlier, a folded note tucked under the windshield wiper. Not casual, not windblown, placed, deliberate. He unfolded it. You exposed him in court. You emboldened him to challenge us. You think the law protects you? It doesn't. No signature, no name, just a symbol. 3 slashes carved like claw marks. Marcus looked around slowly, scanning cars, shadows, upper levels. Level 2 was quiet, too empty for comfort, too still for coincidence. A soft sound echoed, footstep, or imagination answering fear. He didn't rush to his car. He didn't run. He walked, slow, alert, spine tall. Halfway to the door, a voice followed him. Leaving so soon, counselor? Marcus turned. 2 men leaned beside a pillar, casual posture, but eyes cold. One cracked his knuckles. The other twirled keys like a blade. No fear in their faces. One stepped forward. You embarrassed someone important yesterday. Marcus held his ground. Steady gaze. Even voice. I revealed the truth. Embarrassment was self-inflicted. The man smirked. Lawyers think words matter everywhere. The second man tilted his head. Parking lots don't care about evidence. Marcus clenched his jaw, but not his fists. They wanted fear. He wouldn't give it. I'm not here to fight you, Marcus said calmly. The first man grinned wider. We didn't ask if you were. We asked if you're ready when it comes. Marcus stepped forward, 1 pace. Equal distance, equal power. You came with threats. I came with truth. He paused. And truth doesn't need to swing. The second man circled like a wolf, voice low. You think winning 1 case changes the world? Marcus answered without flinching. No, but failing to try is how the world stays broken. For a moment, neither man moved. Then, footsteps approached. Fast, sharp, confident. Detective Rowan appeared from the stairwell, hand resting near his holster. Not drawn, but ready. Step back, Rowan said. This man already did his fighting in court. The 2 men sized Rowan up, calculating risk. Then, with one last glare, they disappeared into the ramp's shadows. Not retreat, promise. Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Rowan approached. You're dealing with something bigger than 1 case. Marcus nodded. I know. Be careful, Rowan warned. Marcus met his eyes. Careful isn't the same as silent. Rowan studied him, respect emerging like sunrise through storm. Then he left. Marcus drove out of the garage. Not shaken, but sharpened. The threat was real. The enemies were hidden. This was no longer about law. It was about backbone. Harold had been the first test. Marcus was the next. He gripped the wheel tighter as city lights blurred past. They wanted intimidation. He would give them accountability. They wanted him silent. He would give them truth that stands unbroken. Because power isn't always loud. Sometimes, power arrives in quiet footsteps and refuses to back away. Marcus didn't go home immediately. He drove, slowly, intentionally, eyes on mirrors, mind running like a legal engine. The note, the men, the attack, none of it was coincidence. Someone was pulling strings, someone powerful, someone afraid of accountability. The city passed in blurs of amber streetlights and neon reflections. His pulse was calm, but his thoughts were razor-edged. He didn't fear danger. He studied it. When he finally reached his townhouse, he parked 2 blocks away and watched quietly from the dark interior of his car. No suspicious figures, no unfamiliar vehicles. Still, caution breathed beside him like an old friend. He walked to his door with steady pace, no hurry, no weakness. Inside, he locked the door, set his briefcase down, and sat at his dining table. Lights low, silence deep. He pulled out the note again. 3 slashes. Not random. A symbol. A mark. He searched legal archives in his mind. Cases involving organized intimidation, corrupt contracts, retaliatory assaults. One name surfaced like a dock tide. The Vasaro Group, a construction conglomerate with a history of buying silence. Sometimes with money, sometimes with fear. Marcus had seen whispers in court files, veiled warnings in settlements. Never proven, always suspected. Harold's client, Coleman, had ties to them. Marcus leaned back slowly, exhale measured. They weren't angry about parking. They were angry about accountability. At 10:43 p.m., his phone buzzed. A text. Unknown again. You should have walked away, lawyer. Men like us don't lose without repayment. Marcus stared at the message without blinking. Another came. You took his dignity. We take yours next. He typed back only 3 words. Truth isn't yours. The typing indicator appeared, then vanished. Silence. Until glass shattered. Marcus was on his feet instantly. Living room window cracked in a spiderweb pattern. A brick lay on the floor, shards glittering like ice around it. He approached carefully, heart steady like a metronome under pressure. He picked up the brick. Taped to it, another note. Stay silent. Stay small. Stay in line. Marcus smiled, not warm, not unkind, just dangerously calm. He placed the brick on the table like evidence in a trial. He didn't call the police immediately. He called someone else. Someone with a history darker than courtrooms, sharper than statutes. His older brother, Adrian. Phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice answered, low, deep, deadly controlled. You don't call unless something's wrong. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, grounding himself in familiarity. Someone came after Harold. Now they're coming for me. Silence. Heavy. Then, where are you? Home. Window just shattered. Brick with a threat. Adrian exhaled like a wolf waking. I'm coming. No, Marcus said firmly. Not yet. I need information, not muscle. Adrian chuckled darkly. You forget who trained you to stay calm in a storm. Marcus smirked faintly. You're the storm. I'm the balance. Adrian paused, then nodded through the phone. What's the plan? Marcus stepped to the table, staring at the brick. Symbol of cowardice disguised as power. I find out who sent them, he said. I expose them. In court, not with fists. Adrian's tone sharpened like steel unsheathed. And when they step into your shadow? Marcus answered without hesitation. I won't step back. Adrian grinned. Marcus could hear it. That's the brother I know. They ended the call without goodbye. Warriors don't need ceremony. Marcus swept the glass, boarded the window temporarily, and sat in the dim quiet of his kitchen. He poured himself water, slow and deliberate. Tonight wasn't about fear. It was about clarity. He reviewed every detail. every threat, every connection. Harold apologizes. Harold gets attacked. Marcus wins case. Marcus gets threatened. Brick comes next. This wasn't random. It was escalation. A test not of strength, but of resolve. At 12:18 a.m., his phone vibrated again. Not a threat this time. A voicemail. From Harold. Marcus pressed play. Harold's voice cracked with pain and urgency. I remembered something. The man who hit me, he had a ring. Silver. 3 carved slashes. Like the mark you saw. Marcus froze. Find the ring, Marcus. Find the truth. They think you'll back down. Don't. The recording ended with a shaky breath. Marcus sat very still, mind ablaze, pulse controlled. The symbol wasn't a threat. It was an identity, a signature, a warning, but also a mistake. Because now Marcus had something to hunt. He stood, shoulders square, as if the world itself leaned into his spine. They had come in the night to test him. Tomorrow he would answer, not with fear, but with fire controlled. Because real power isn't violence. Real power is knowing exactly when not to use it. Marcus turned off the lights, window boarded, evidence sealed. He would sleep not because danger faded, but because he chose strength over panic. Tomorrow, the game escalates. Tomorrow, truth sharpens. Tomorrow, they meet him. Again, period ending. And this time, he won't just defend. He will expose. Morning broke like a slow sunrise. Gold stretching across the city. Warm over concrete. Bright against shadows that thought they owned the night. Marcus stood at the boarded window, sleeves rolled, posture calm. Not afraid, not waiting, ready. His phone buzzed, another unknown number. He expected a threat. What he got was an invitation. Meet us. If you believe truth wins, prove it. City Hall rooftop, tonight. Come alone. Marcus read it twice, not because he feared the message, but because of what it represented. They wanted control. They wanted fear. They wanted silence. He put the phone down slowly. I'm coming, he whispered to no one, voice low steel. But he wouldn't come blind. He spent the entire day preparing, not weapons, not fists, not aggression. Evidence. Names, files, records, leverage. Because power isn't who punches hardest. Power is who walks in, knowing the truth can't be erased. City Hall rooftop, 11:58 p.m. Wind pushed across the terrace, cool against Marcus's face, as he stepped forward. Black coat, calm eyes, steps controlled. He wasn't prey. He was the one they underestimated. 3 men were waiting. Dark suits, hard expressions, and on the finger of one, the silver ring with 3 slashes. Marcus stopped 5 feet away. I believe you know Harold Bennett, he said, quietly. The leader smirked, cold, confident. He forgot his place. You should have too. Marcus didn't blink. My place is where the truth stands, he replied. Always has been. Another man chuckled. Truth doesn't protect you here. Marcus opened the folder in his hand. Slow, deliberate, papers catching wind like wings. It protects me everywhere, he said, and now it exposes you. Before they could respond, footsteps echoed behind them. Detective Rowan stepped forward, badge gleaming under city lights. Officers emerging from stairwells like rising judgment. They surrounded the rooftop, not guns drawn, but authority undeniable. Marcus held up the folder. Financial transfers, shell accounts, names tied to the construction fraud Harold testified against. all connected to your symbol. He met the leader's eyes, unbroken. You sent threats. You broke windows. You sent men to silence him. You thought no one would follow the pattern. Then Marcus stepped closer, one slow, fearless pace. But I did, and I didn't need fists to end you, just truth. The leader's smirk faltered, first crack, then crumble. Rowan spoke. You're under arrest for assault, intimidation, and conspiracy. You're done. The men were cuffed, anger thrashing, but useless. Marcus stood untouched, unshaken, unbroken. Harold had changed. Marcus remained steady. And justice, real justice, closed the circle. Rowan approached Marcus afterward, voice respectful. You could have fought them last night. You didn't. You waited for proof. Marcus nodded slowly. Anger reacts. Truth plans. Rowan smiled, faint, impressed. That's why you win. Marcus looked over the city, lights glowing like promises, wind lifting weight from his shoulders. He didn't just survive. He didn't just defend. He turned intimidation into evidence, threats into court filings, fear into purpose. Because courage isn't loud. Courage is steady. And in that still strength, justice grows. Bang. Thank you for watching. This story reminds us, strength isn't throwing fists. It's standing firm when others want you to break. Power isn't controlling others. It's refusing to be controlled. Growth is not weakness. It's proof of who we choose to become. If Marcus's journey inspired you, share this story with someone who needs courage today. Stay strong. Stand tall. Speak truth. Even when others fear it.